Hi, everyone, and welcome to the North Noise Podcast. I'm your host, Hunter Rising, and I'm glad that you're tuning into this. This is the first episode of the podcast, and I'm really looking forward to having you all listen to it. Basically, I wanted to reach out to a bunch of bands from the Midwest because the local scene here has just been booming lately, and I feel like all these voices need to be heard, and I don't think there's a lot of people that are going out to local shows or supporting their friends or their local bands when they could easily be going and doing that just a couple days a week or once a month. It doesn't even matter as long as you're being that support system for them. And I thought it would be great to hear all of the voices of the people behind the music throughout the Midwest because they all have something special that they want to say, and I think their voices need to be heard. So, a little history about me. I used to be in a band called The Rest of Forever from 2012 to 2014, and it was one of the best experiences of my life, honestly. While I was in the band, I got to travel around Wisconsin, and I got to meet a bunch of amazing people that I still communicate and talk to today. And all of those connections are amazing. Every band that I've talked to has been super down to earth, and they all care about that music community. And I think if we get that care that the community shares for themselves through everybody, I think that's going to be such a powerful thing for local musicians, and it's going to really empower all of the music that comes from it. So for our first episode, I talked to Alex and Chris of the band Wicked World. We talked about such a variety of things. They have a new EP called Witch Hunt coming out June 24th, so that's 1 week away, and you can still pre-order it, and you can still support these guys. They have a show coming up in July that they're really pushing with Varials and I Am, and it's just going to be a great time. We had a great conversation. They were such fun guys to talk to. So without further ado, I give you Chris and Alex of Wicked World. Thanks for doing this again. I'm really excited to start all of this up, and you guys are one of the first bands that I get to talk to, so that's super exciting. So thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you too. We really appreciate it. We don't get to do many interviews, so.
How about we just start off with you guys introducing yourself and then talking about a little bit of your personal history or your connection to the local music scene.
All right, well, we're part of Wicked World. I'm Alex and I do vocals.
I'm Chris and I play guitar.
As far as personal history and I guess connection, I've been going to shows since I was about 11 or 12, so I'm 25 now. So over 10 years. I've been in a few different bands since I was like 14 or 15. I started a grind thing, death metal, metalcore. My last thing was pop punk.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's been everywhere. I don't know, it's kind of weird, but Wicked World's definitely been the one that's gotten the farthest. We've all worked extremely hard to get to where we are now since day one. Our connection to the local scene, I mean, we've always gone to shows, even the ones we're not playing. We support them, and we promote other shows too. We just want the scene to keep growing, and the best way to do that is for bands to be supporting other bands and doing what they can to help.
Yeah, for sure. What is like the first show that has stuck in your head?
Whew.
Well, I remember my first local show was actually your band, in Appleton.
Oh, wow.
With a bunch of other bands about 5 years ago. I saw the flyer for it in Hot Topic, and I was just like, oh, wow, heavy bands playing near me. I want to go to that, because I'd never really seen a local show in that area before, and I actually really liked all the bands and just kept going. So that's kind of what sticks out in my mind as the first local show I've ever been to.
Was that the show that Charybdis was playing and Guardians?
Yeah, that was my first local show.
That's crazy. I'm honored.
I can't really think of my first one. I remember over 10 years ago, I used to see this band called Amor Savant, who used to be pretty big in the scene. After the burial in Vale of Mai, I used to play at Madison all the time, normally like once a month. Yeah, so I saw them a bunch. I can't think of the first local show I went to, but those were like the first memories I have of them.
Awesome. So, what would you say are bands that have had the biggest influences on Wicked World sound?
Uh, Basically, when I'm about to write, I mainly listen to like the Red Chord, the Spy Icon, Older Between the Buried and Me, the Winds of Plague, and the Acacia Strain, and then a few more like hardcore-ish bands, kind of like Kublai Khan and Desolated. We're really into like beatdown hardcore, but we're also like really big into metal. So what we're trying to do is just combine like our favorite things about both genres and just combine them into this kind of like massive, I don't know, heavy. Just trying to touch as many styles as we can without it sounding really awkward and try to do something that hasn't been done before.
Right. I was talking once to Ty from Conveyor, and when he said that he was writing, he said that he didn't really listen to any bands in the genre that he was writing in because he felt like that influenced him in some way. Do you ever have like a worry about something of that sort?
Oh yeah, there's been so many times where like we'll be listening to a band and then Alex will pause it, be like, "Wait, Chris, that's literally this song." I'm like, "Oh shit." But usually it's not that bad, and it's really, really, really hard to come up with 100% original material. Like everything in the world has been done before. Everything's a copy of a copy. So you just kind of do the best you can. And I mean, if the guitar pattern is really similar, at least like the drum beat is different, or it'll be a different tempo. Or we've never had an issue with completely 100% stealing a riff. I always try to double check whenever I write too to make sure it doesn't happen. But yeah, that is a concern sometimes.
Alex, do you want to touch on that at all?
As far as our sound, I mean, like Chris said, we just want to do something different, and I think we really do that by combining as many genres as we do. If you listen to our band, if you like heavy music whatsoever, it's really no doubt in my mind that you can find at least one thing you really like. Like Chris said, we have hardcore, we have death metal, we have metal, all these different things. And if you can go throughout all 17 of our songs and not find one part you like, then that's just weird to me. But
Yeah.
I've always been into heavy music and the aggression and the power behind it. And that's just what we like to portray.
That's awesome. Yeah, you definitely hit on all those sounds that you were talking about. And I think that really makes for a really interesting sound. So, you guys just recently signed Inner Strength Records. So, congrats on that, number one.
Thank you.
And so, how has that affected what you're doing as a band? Do they really help, like, push you to shows? Or I don't know too much about record deals or anything. So, do you want to touch on that just a little bit?
Yeah, Inner Strength, I've known of them for quite a while. They have some bands I've really liked since I was growing up. So in March, we toured with this band called Advocate, who's on Inner Strength Records, and they were like, "Hey, you should send your stuff off to Jason, who owns Inner Strength. He'd really dig it." So I was like, "Sure." We hadn't really thought about putting this out through a label whatsoever, just because we didn't think about it, and it wasn't really a concern. But Jason really liked it a lot, and he threw us an offer, and we dug it. As far as what he's doing for us, you know, we still have a very big DIY attitude. I still book all of our tours. We play the shows we want to. We print whatever merch we want. On Jason's part, you know, he's gotten us in contact with like Lamb Goat. He's gotten us on some other websites. He's handling pre-orders for us. He's doing a lot of the distribution through the U.S. and overseas. Yeah, so I mean, it's definitely benefiting us, and I think he's been promoting us a lot, and he's pushing us, and I feel like he's just going to continue to do that.
It's awesome to hear. So, you guys have had technically 3 releases so far, and that's including your demo and your split with Beyond the Aftermath.
Right.
And Witch Hunt is coming up in June. And what can we expect to hear in Witch Hunt that we haven't really heard from you before? Or how is the sound going to be something else than what we've heard from you guys on your prior releases?
I mean, like Chris kind of hinted at, we always try to like surprise people with each release, each different song. Like, you're not going to really know what to expect coming up from song to song or part to part. And Witch Hunt, it just continues the trends. I mean, Chris will go over like some of the smaller things and like really touch on some of the things we changed. So, I mean, I'll let him do that quick.
Oh, well, on Witch Hunt, I mean, basically, it's like the same idea we have, like I said before, just trying to combine all these different elements of, just like metal and hardcore and try to form just like the heaviest sound we can do. But as far as how it's different from like our other releases, I mean, I wrote so that the guitars complement each other more. There's a lot of songs I wrote for one guitar on As I Decay, and I mean, it's a little bit simpler. So on this record, like the guitars will complement each other more. They'll harmonize, or one will be playing a riff while the other does something else. I threw a few guitar solos on here, so we're just trying to expand our sound so people don't think we're just like just oh these guys play really cool breakdowns, but we try to like have more parts that aren't just like super like moshy. Just kind of like have more solos. The vocal style is a little bit different. Alex is going a little bit outside his comfort zone. We're trying to be less of a breakdown and like blast beats band like a lot of deathcore bands are, and just try to write, I don't know, music.
I mean, every band says this, but we really, really pushed ourselves musically to just be heavier, be faster, be more technical, just trying to do what we've done, but do it better. Which is, I think, every band should do that. Your first release should be your weakest, and you should just keep getting better. And that's what we want to do. That's what every band should do. Um, like Chris said, vocally, with Watch You Sleep, I was in the studio, and there's the two verses. They're like 50 seconds in or something, and I was listening to it, and in my head I had this vocal idea I wanted, but I had never done it before. So I was sitting there and I tried a couple different things like my normal vocals, and it just didn't really sound right. It didn't really fit the guitars at that time. So I was just in the studio, and Nick, who recorded it from the Nook, he was like, you know what, let's just get weird. And so I was like, okay. And I don't really know how it happened, but I did something weird. And a lot of people are talking about this King 810 band. I personally, I don't know what they sound like. Chris and I finally checked them out last night, and we're getting so many comparisons, and it's kind of weird that people are judging an entire band on this 30 seconds of vocals when the rest of our discography doesn't really sound like that.
Right.
I mean, yeah, that part sounds like it, but for someone to be like, yeah, this entire song sounds like it when it doesn't is weird to us, but people
Yeah.
think what they want. I don't know. I didn't really use that style too much in the rest of the EP. That's definitely the biggest section that has it. I mean, it somewhat comes back in songs like Crowd of Horns, Dog Mother, Pack of Teeth. So, like, it's sprinkled throughout the EP slightly, but with that song, I just wanted to do what I could.
So you're kind of saying that it shows up, but it's not your like new prominent vocal style. Like we can still expect something like what we've heard on As I Decay or your Split,
Right,
but you have this new thing peppered in.
right. So I would say I have three different vocal styles usually. Like, I don't know, I'd call them growls, and then I'd say like hardcore vocals and my highs. And the only thing I really changed in those three are I do more of my highs in the new stuff just because I really like them and they fit really well with some of the parts. And besides that, if you're familiar with like my hardcore vocals, I kind of changed those a bit, and now I think they're like a little more aggressive, a little more meaty maybe. People are gonna have to wait and see what I mean because Watch You Sleep didn't really have any of those vocals that I'm talking about.
All right. I think you kind of started to hit on it when you talked about people leaving comments comparing you to King 810. I just kind of want to touch on some of the negative comments that kind of surround your band.
Sure.
By what I've seen on like event pages and just like through Lambgoat when I was checking out your single, I feel like there's a lot of negativity in the comments there. And it seems like, especially on the event pages, it seems like you kind of accept it and you're like, why is Wicked World even on this show anyway, on like all the polls?
Yeah.
But how do you feel about seeing those comments and people not really being supportive of music coming out from their local places?
I mean, the thing that kind of sucks is a lot of the people who say negative things are our friends, and they're like obviously not really serious about it, but from an outsider's perspective, they're going to see this and they're going to come with this mindset before even listening to us that, wow, maybe these guys suck, people will say what they want, and I mean, I kind of joke back and forth with some people. Like, I don't let it get to me because there's no point. I'm not making music for other people. I'm making it for me. And, on Lamb Goat, some of those comments from people who aren't our friends, like talking shit, they're probably actually feeling that way, which is, that's how they feel. It's whatever. We're a deathcore band. We're not really what's in right now. What matters is that we like the music. And no amount of negative comments are going to deter us from playing whatever we want to play.
Yeah, like every band you can think of has negative comments. Like even the biggest metal bands in the entire world have people talking shit on them on the internet. It's just like it's a thing. It's completely subjective, so it's not like someone can say something like, "Oh, they did this wrong." Like it goes like one man's trash is another man's treasure. Someone will hate something, but then another person will listen to it, and that'll be the one thing they like about it.
Right.
I mean, there's like tons of stuff I don't like that's floating around out there, but I don't go and comment about it because I just don't understand it. And, just because you don't understand something doesn't mean that thing is wrong. So I just kind of take every comment with a grain of salt. And, maybe they don't even like deathcore, so they just don't understand flat out. And so that doesn't bother me. We have plenty of fans and people coming out to our shows and people that show appreciation for us to make me happy. It's not like we're the most hated band around here. So playing shows makes me really happy, and writing music makes me happy. So even if everyone did hate it, I try not to let it bother me because I just do it because it makes me happy.
And like Chris said, I mean, we do have a lot of people who support us, and ever since we really started, people have had our backs, and I can't think of really any bad Milwaukee show, Madison show we've had. Like, every show always surprises me in one way or another. Like, people are always really supportive of us, which is really cool. But that's kind of Milwaukee in a whole. Honestly, we played all over the Midwest, and I'd say, from what I see, Milwaukee probably has, if not the best, one of the best scenes in the Midwest. And every show, there's a very decent turnout, and people are always supporting touring bands, local bands. They're promoting the shows, and it's just really cool to see how like the scene has grown in the last couple of years.
Definitely. And that's really why I wanted to start this as well, because there has been that growth of bands in the Midwest that are starting, and I think that recognition is deserved throughout all of these groups.
Sure. And like I went to a show the other weekend. It was like Backbone, Stomach Pump, Falter, Problem of Pain, and there was one more, and Faceplant. And I got there, and there's like 35, 40 kids, and I didn't even know half of them, which is weird because I've been around a while. I know most of the people that go to shows, and seeing like 20, 25 kids I had never seen before was really cool and really kind of said something about how the scene is growing.
Yeah, I know, Chris, you get really passionate about local shows and music. I always see you being vocal about it on Twitter.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to like touch on that at all, but I just think it's really great how you tell people that they should go to shows and how much it is important to musicians.
Well, of course, yeah. Every single band in the entire world has been a local band at some point, and most bands have probably played to like less than 10 people who like just kind of stood there and made it really awkward. But that's how you can change it, by going to shows and showing band support. And if you like a band, buy their merch and just leave them a comment or talk to them or something. It really helps out a lot and keeps bands want to keep playing. And it's just a good time for everyone. The scene, I mean, it's amazing, but it could be so much better if like more and more people came out and supported it. I just see so much potential, and it's really cool to see newer kids coming out to shows, kids in like high school, like my age when I started going to shows. And I just hope that it keeps getting bigger and bigger. And I hear about days from when like local shows would sell out a venue, and like they wouldn't be able to pack any more people in there. And I never got to see that. So I think that'd be really cool to just see more and more people coming out and supporting shows and making them even more fun than they already are.
Definitely, man. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
So let's get back to your music and Witch Hunt. What I've noticed while looking through the lyrics on As I Decay and your Split, lyrically it seems like a lot of the songs seem to question religion or God. So this is kind of a three-part question. Does Witch Hunt kind of continue those themes? Do those lyrics speak to your personal religious views? And if you want to discuss the meaning behind one or two of your songs, that would be awesome.
Sure. Yeah. Like you said, a lot of my older lyrics were very much based around religion as well as like personal struggles and depression. I didn't want to stick with that because the problem with writing about religion, depression, anger, all that stuff, after a while, like you're just rehashing all the stuff. Like, how many times can you actually talk about it before you start repeating the same words, same ideas, same stories? As I Decay, that was really all about depression, and each song dealt with it one way or another. And while I was writing for Witch Hunt, I started writing, and the main focus of Witch Hunt at first was being this EP that really attacked every type of person I didn't like that goes to shows or that really just exists. Like, I'm going to target people who are racist, sexist, homophobic, all this stuff. And then, obviously, like, that would be a good thing to write about. But while writing it, it just didn't feel right. Like, I'm angry about all that stuff, but it was really too hard to put into words. And I felt like I was trying way too hard to really say those things. I didn't want to come up as like some gimmick. Like, there are so many bands out there who really talk about that stuff, and I think they do it a lot better than I could. I'm not the most educated on all the social stuff going on, and so I was just like, you know what, this doesn't feel right. And what sucks is like it took me a really long time to write the lyrics I had, and then a week before we went to record, I was like, I can't do these lyrics, and like I threw out everything I had.
Oh, wow.
7 lyrics were just gone. And 2 other times that week, I had written lyrics for the whole thing, and I thought they were it. And then I just kept thinking, I kept putting them into the songs, and it didn't feel right. So, most of the lyrics I actually wrote in the studio. I had like 3 days to write them. Like, I really struggled with some of them, and it was weird because normally I can really chuck out lyrics pretty quick, like I did with As I Decay and the Sewer Split, and a lot of people do like them, but looking back, I don't really care too much for them. And with Witch Hunt, even though it was all last minute, I look at those lyrics and I'm like, hey, I'm really proud of these, and I really like these more than anything else I've ever written. And once people like start reading the lyrics, they might be kind of confused as to what is going on, what's being said. There's just a lot more imagery, a lot more, I don't want to say poetry, but I guess that's a good way to look at it.
Right.
I don't know. I tried something new with the lyrics, and a lot of people probably won't like them, and I guess I just don't really care because I really like them, and like I said, I'm in this band for me, and if they don't like the lyrics, whatever. The concept behind Witch Hunt, there's this show called Salem, and I kind of drew some inspiration from that because I really love the show, and it had a really cool story. One of the plot lines was there was this guy who was in love with this woman, and he didn't really know it, but she was a witch, and she was married to the mayor of Salem. And I kind of used that because throughout the show, he starts like kind of realizing things about her, and so Witch Hunt is about this guy who is really like in love with this beautiful woman who he idolizes, who everyone thinks is this great, wonderful person, but then he slowly starts realizing, hey, something's messed up here, and in the end, he's like, oh, this is just she's a witch. And so, I mean, I never really wanted to do a concept album. Like, I never really thought about it. And with Witch Hunt, it just felt right. I mean, if you read lyrics front to back, some people might figure that out. And I think it's really cool. There are certain songs that, like, have more of an emphasis on certain things. Like, Pack of Teeth, for instance, is all about hypocrites. One of the lines is, the famine spreads under her breath. And that's just kind of like how she makes all these people believe she's something that she's not. And with Watch You Sleep is really about love, which is weird. And a lot of people are thinking like this guy is watching this woman sleep, when in reality, it's this witch haunting this guy and like infecting his dreams. But yeah, overall, each song goes back to the original theme of this, I guess, love story.
That's awesome. I've always really enjoyed concept albums if they're well written. So I'm really looking forward to this when it comes out.
Awesome.
So, what would you say that your personal favorite song that you've written and performed is?
Well, for me, my favorite song that I've written so far is I'd probably have to say Dog Mother off of Witch Hunt. It's just got such a wide variety of different genres and sounds in it. From there's like clean guitars, but then there's like fast trem picking riffs, and then there's like an off time breakdown in it. And it just feels so much more epic than any of our other songs, just because it just kind of builds and builds and builds. It's just I feel like it's a really well written song. So that's the one I'm most proud of writing.
With me, it's hard to pick a favorite song just because all of our songs are so unique to me. For instance, like As I Decay, my favorite song is probably The Deep. There's a heaviness to it that I really like. It's a heavy song. It's a sludgy song. It's probably our slowest song, and I do really like the lyrics on it. And from the split, out of the two songs, I like one with the Abyss the most. There's just so many different parts to it, and I love all of them. And it just kind of sucks that it's really overlooked in our discography. Like, I have certain friends who love it, but for the most part, whenever we played it live, it got no reaction whatsoever. And probably my favorite song we have, period, is from the new EP. It's called I Am the Gray. It's the last song we have, and like Chris used epic to talk about Dog Mother, and I really believe I Am the Gray is just this huge, massive, epic song. And I mean, I've listened to it probably over 50 times now, and there's not been a single time where I haven't gotten goosebumps near the end of the song. And no other song has made me feel the way that that song does.
Yeah, I definitely know that feeling. There's still a couple songs that my old band had written and performed, and every time a certain part comes on, I just get like a chill running down my spine. So that's always a really exciting thing to have as a musician.
And the only thing that really sucks about that song is like it's the closer, and like I Lost God Today on As I Decay. A lot of people really thought it was a great closer, and with I Am the Gray, I think we went above and beyond. I think to our next release, and I'm like, I have no idea how we could ever make a better closer than I Am the Gray. But I guess we'll see when the time comes.
Yeah, for sure. And that's going to definitely help push your game forward as you continue.
Because we just have to keep challenging ourselves to do above and beyond.
Exactly. So I have just a couple more questions. Twitter user Ben Was a Horse is wondering why you haven't paid Chris to get 4 arms so he can play 2 guitars yet, and I just kind of wanted to hit on that. Is there any reasoning?
Chris?
Well, that's really expensive, so that's why you need to buy the new album so I can afford to get surgery to get arms attached. I'll take a poll on what kind of size arms people want me to get, whether they're like tiny or really muscular, so I don't have to work them out. I'm totally down for that, though. I just need the funding.
Then, what's like your best or craziest experience that you've had at a show?
Okay, so I guess our best shows in December, we hit the Northeast one time, and it was Connecticut, this place called Point Beach Clubhouse in Hartford. And going in there, we had no idea what to expect. Like, Northeast has a really good reputation for people going crazy, but we had never played there. No one really knew of us. And each local who played before us was so good, and the place was going crazy. And when our set started, it was just unreal. It was by far the craziest, most violent show we've ever had. That venue apparently never had fights until we played, and there were 4 or 5 during our set and a few hospital visits, which, I mean, sucks for those people, but like,
Congratulations for you.
I don't want to see fights, but like
It's so much energy.
that just shows how our music is making people feel. And I think about that show all the time. Like, it was so cool to go somewhere brand new where not a lot of people knew you, and just to get a reaction like that. That was probably our craziest show, just from the energy to the unexpectedness, just everything about it. As far as like our craziest experience on tour, there's been quite a few. We played Arkansas in, I think it was July, at what we believe was a crack house. Yeah, people were doing a lot of weird stuff upstairs in the living room, and it had rained, I think, the night before, and the floor we played on was so soaked that you could step and water would splash up, and it was not a good time. I mean, it was still a good show. Like there was a decent turnout. It was just weird, and we were on tour with this band Meth Dealer, who is now Capital Offense. One of their guys named Bo actually somersaulted into a toilet and broke it during our Hatebreed cover, which was actually really cool. You don't really experience that often, and I don't know if we ever will again. A better experience this last December. We had an off date and we were in Fort Myers, Florida, and it was me, Matt, and Jason Frazier. Fraser, I don't know how you say his last name. Anyway, we were swimming in the ocean, and I saw this fin in the distance, and I was like, "Oh hell no!" Because I thought it was a shark. I didn't know what it could have been, and like I unintentionally swam with a shark before, so I was like, this is really bringing back bad memories. And Matt is like animal extraordinaire. He watches all these animal shows all the time, and he's like, dude, that's a dolphin. And suddenly there were like three dolphins within like 10, 15 feet of us just swimming around, and it was really cool. Like that's not something I really ever expected being on tour.
Chris, do you have anything to touch on for that?
Crazy experiences. Well, as Alex said, our Connecticut show was pretty crazy. We actually had to retire our merch table at that show because like people broke it during our set. It was just so ridiculously crazy. So we got a new merch table. And in Florida in December, we played Orlando, and while we were playing, our friend was like moshing around and stuff to our set because it was the last day of tour for that band with us. And this fucking old metalhead guy just like grabs him and like throws him and like knocks down some of the other band's shit. And so we like stop playing. We're like, hey, knock it off, stop fighting. We play a few more songs, and then towards the end of our last song, he does it again. So we just like stop playing, and then Matt got like really heated about it and walked up to this guy and like talked to him for like probably good like half hour, just like getting in his face and trying to tell him to calm down and stuff because he was this drunk guy that was basically just bullying people. And this guy was just throwing so many threats at him, and he said he was like gonna stab him and all this crap, and he got thrown out right after that. But it was just kind of crazy how fast that escalated, and I mean it wasn't pleasant, but it was definitely crazy and memorable.
Yeah, it's really weird. Like up until our December tour, we didn't have any fights at our shows.
No, it was a huge problem on that tour, though.
We had, I think, 3 or 4 separate dates where there were fights, and since then, we had a fight at a show in Kenosha, and I think there may have been one more somewhere, and it's just, I don't know what we brought back with us from Florida, but it was something.
You kind of touched on how that one older metalhead was drunk, and I know, Chris, that you are straight edge. Do you kind of want to talk about being in the scene and being kind of in Wisconsin, being a straight edge?
Oh yeah. Like I never understood the appeal in alcohol, and like my parents both like were kind of alcoholics, and my dad died, and part of the reason of that was he just drank so fucking much. So when that happened, I'm like, okay, I never want to drink like ever again. And like I don't really mind being around it. I prefer not to, just because people act so like different and just silly kind of, but not really in a funny way, just kind of an annoying way.
Right.
Living in Wisconsin, like there's this article floating around and it listed like the top 20 drunkest cities or some shit. Literally like 8 of them were in Wisconsin, like eastern Wisconsin where I grew up. It's kind of bizarre to be like this person that's just like, oh yeah, I don't really like drinking, and everyone else is just like, oh, I can respect that, but I don't really understand why. It's kind of tough because like most of the time when someone is having a birthday party or wants to go out and have fun, they're like, oh, let's go to a bar. Or, they throw like a house party and there's just like tons of beer there and everyone's just wasted and just doing really silly shit. And so I don't have anything against people that drink or my friends that drink, but it's just kind of difficult to like try to have a good time with people because almost every time, like it's like a huge party and people get drunk, I just don't want to be there. So I spend a lot of time at home by myself. And it kind of sucks, but I mean, what can I do? I'm who I am, and I still have a handful of like straight edge friends that are always fun to talk to and hang out with. But yeah, I just feel like in Wisconsin, it's a lot harder and a lot different than any other state just because of the sheer amount of, alcoholism around here.
Yeah, it was like a month or two ago. Josh, our drummer, and Matt were like, "Hey, let's go to the bars for all you can drink on a Wednesday night in Whitewater." And
Oh, okay.
for some reason, Chris decided to come along, and I was like, "Are you?"
I was being really optimistic.
He was being way too optimistic because Whitewater is insane with partying, and this bar was just beyond packed. Like you couldn't move; you had to push people to get out of the way. And I don't really drink, but I learned my limit that night. And I mean, Josh was drunk, Matt was drunk, so Chris is just sitting here pretty much by himself, having to deal with all of us, and it was really funny about how much he hated it.
It was like, I was basically the designated driver, so I couldn't leave. So I basically stayed there from like, what was it, like 8 o'clock until like bar closed.
It was like 9 until 1:32. Yeah.
Yeah, so I couldn't leave, and I just felt so alienated. I felt like I was in a different culture. I was just looking around, and people are laughing, and I didn't know why. And people just like were really talkative, but like their conversations just didn't really make sense to me, and I just felt like I was on a different planet or something. Like it's so not for me. I'm just so turned off by the thought of getting drunk that I just never again. I learned my lesson.
Do you feel like alcohol and drunkenness at venues is a problem at all? Like, have you had any other bad experiences besides that one drunk guy that you've seen?
I mean, people usually loosen up and have more of a good time when they're drunk, but obviously every show has that drunk idiot, and sometimes it can be a real problem. I noticed that like bigger shows, like back when metal shows used to be like at the Rave and stuff, there's always some drunk idiots trying to fight and stuff, and I guess it becomes problematic when someone becomes like an angry drunk as opposed to a happy drunk. To me, as long as they don't start fights or hurt themselves or like drunk drive, then it's not really a problem. But for people that like can't handle it and try to pick fights because they're drunk and don't really know what's going on, I think that's kind of the main problem, and that's why I prefer all ages venues with like no drugs or drinking or anything allowed. Because I mean, honestly, if you go to a show and can't have a good time without alcohol and don't want to be there, you probably shouldn't go to shows in the first place and just go hang out at a bar or something. Because I'm there to enjoy the music, and I just hate when people like ruin it for other people.
Right. That's definitely a problem that I have seen.
Oh yeah.
So what has your guys' favorite local venue been in to play, either in Wisconsin or any of the states like sort of surrounding?
Wisconsin, I would say the Metal Grill in Cudahy. We had our first show there in October of 2014, and since then, we played it a few times, and each time it's been really, really great. I mean, the sound there is awesome. They have lights, which I don't know, they're cool. There's a stage. The sound is really the selling point because it's just so good, and they have enough bathrooms for everyone. It's a decent sized venue for really just any sort of show. I'm not talking like bands who can draw thousands of people, but you can fit 250, 300 people in it fine. There is a bar. For the most part, people who go to that venue, like they're good about staying at the bar when they have drinks. I mean, it also has food. It's really not that far from Milwaukee. From what I know, it's not a dangerous area, which is a big concern of mine for Milwaukee venues is just, the safety aspect because there's so many dangerous places in Milwaukee.
Oh yeah, I remember one time, I believe it was in Racine, someone was like held up at gunpoint outside of a venue during a show. Like there were people that were like gonna like mug people outside of this fucking venue, and because there were so many people there, they backed off.
Yeah,
and that's just you shouldn't have to worry about that when you're going to a show.
Right.
That shouldn't be a concern.
Right. Chris, what about for you?
Favorite venue?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously there's the Metal Grill, like Alex said. We've also played the Frequency in Madison twice. I like that venue a lot because it feels like a real venue, It's got like a bar, it's got like an actual stage area, really good sound. There's even like a basement downstairs for all the bands to put their stuff and just kind of hang out on the furniture and stuff. And there's like street parking, and then there's parking for the venue. So, I mean, it's pretty easy to park. They allow stage diving there, which is extremely rare around here. Like, you go to almost any venue within like 100 or 200 mile radius of Milwaukee, and either there's no stage or they have security, and if you stage dive, you get kicked out. And at the Frequency, they seem to tolerate it, and I think that's pretty cool. The only downside about that venue to me is that it's 18 plus, so I mean, the younger kids can't really come out, which really sucks. But besides that, I think it's a pretty cool venue, and I wish more Milwaukee people would make the drive out there because I think it's worth it.
For sure, man. So we're pretty much coming to a close. Do you guys have any closing thoughts at all that you want listeners to hear?
I would say just support your local scene. I know it's said a lot, but going out to shows, it's not expensive. People always complain about, $10, but you're paying $10 to see a movie. You pay 7, $8 to go get dinner, and here you're paying $10 to see this new music, hang out with people, just have a good time. And with that, like, there's a lot of shows going on. You might know one band on it, you might know two, you might not know any. And if you're bored, like, go check out bands. A lot of shows, like, I'll know like one or two bands and I'll go and like I'll end up liking a different band even more that I didn't even know. And that's really important. Like, people sometimes go to shows and they hang out outside until, their one band plays and they miss out on so much. And I just think, if you're going to a show, if you're paying for it, like, check out every band, even if it's a song or two. Like, you never know who's going to impress you, who's going to surprise you. So just support your friends, support the band, support the scene, help it grow.
Basically, what Alex says, just keep going to local shows and supporting local bands. It really does make like a difference. Like, if you want to see a local band get bigger, just support them any way you can, and buy their merch, buy their music if they have it for like a certain price. Come out to their shows as much as possible, learn the words, even just leave words of encouragement. I don't know. I always try to be open minded to other genres too, not even just like heavier genres, but like if I'm at like a show where it's like pop punk bands or indie bands, there's still so much to learn about other genres and other styles of music. And I feel like some people are just a little more closed off and just like, oh, this band sucks because they don't have blah blah blah. But it's like people in that genre don't listen for that. There's like a different reason. So just if you don't understand something, just I usually just like ask people what they see in it and stuff, and just try to learn and grow from it, I guess. So yeah, just keep an open mind, and if you really like a band, you should go out and support them in any way you can.
Awesome. So where can listeners find Wicked World online? Like, where can we get music, find shows, social media, that sort of thing?
All right, so we have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You'll do facebook.com/wickedworldwi, twitter.com/wickedworldwi, Instagram's the same thing. If you're trying to listen, we put up a new song, Watch You Sleep, through Lambgoat. All of our other releases are up for free download at wickedworldwi.bandcamp.com. We have some merch up there, and our new EP will be coming out June 24th through Inner Strength Records, and we have pre-orders up right now for it where you get Watch You Sleep for free. So yeah, June 24th, Witch Hunt.
Thank you guys for doing this again. I'm really stoked to have you guys and have people that are excited for this sort of thing to happen. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
As I said before, it was such a fun conversation with these two. It was great to make that connection with them and get on a deeper level about everything with their music and the scene. And I think they brought up a lot of great points. Just try and get out to local shows when you can, because it's literally the same price as a movie or a dinner, and it's amazing with all the people that you meet. As they said, they have an EP coming out next week. That's June 24th, and that's entitled Witch Hunt. You can go pre-order it on their Bandcamp, and then you get Watch You Sleep as a download right away. They have a show on July 12th. That's a Tuesday, and that's with Varials, I Am, Flatline, and Wits End in West Allis at Post 120. And it's only $10, and you're going to see amazing bands with amazing people. So I'd highly recommend getting out there. I know I'm definitely going to try and get down there on that day. So I'd like to keep doing this, and I'd love to have your support. So please, if you could, go to our Facebook page at facebook.com/NorthNoisePod and give us a like. That would be awesome. You can follow me on Twitter at NorthNoisePod. I'm going to be posting about local shows, talking about bands that are coming up, and going to be asking questions about what you want to know about the bands. So stay involved that way too. Also, you can subscribe to our YouTube page, and that's where all of these episodes are going to be available for free to listen to. I'm going to be trying to get on podcast apps and iTunes soon, so stick around for that, and I will keep you posted on that. So if you're in a band or you have bands that you want me to talk to, you can either send me a message through our Facebook page, or you can send an email also to northnoisepod@gmail.com. And I will definitely look into anyone that you post, and I will do my best to contact them and get us talking. I'm open to any genre at all, so please leave suggestions. And what I like to do at the end of every episode is end on a song by the band that I just interviewed, because you hear the people behind the music here, and now you'll be able to hear the music that they're putting out. And I think it's just a great full circle process. So off of their new EP, Witch Hunt, coming out June 24th, this is Watch You Sleep.
Bring me back to life, waiting for her lips to rest on mine. And sleep is for the weak, but I am so weak for you. Return us to death, let my tears dry my eyes. And they say sleep is for the weak, but I am so weak for you. Eyes don't shut, see only darkness. Sleep can't seem to shut you out. Chew apart my eyes, and then watch me sleep. Sleep me. Her eyes included in mine. Her face floated endlessly. Her eyes included in mine. Her face floated endlessly. Arms wide, I embrace comets. Eyes closed to eternities. Welcome me in your oblivion. Obliterate me in twilight. Welcome me in your oblivion. Obliterate me in twilight. I will watch you sleep with every breath you take, with every move you make, with every mood you make, with every heart you break. The sun and the moon show terrorize. When the round stars would go, light and fall. My fingers no traitors. From my sorrows, every grace I stray. For God to pray.
Some must watch. Some must sleep. Thus runs the world.